Welcome, Spartans, to Mission Debrief. We're playing every mission of the Halo mainline video game series in chronological order, discussing our experiences and sprinkling in a little lore along the way. If you'd like to play along and have your thoughts spread on the show, email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. We'll be playing the Blue Team mission from Halo 5 on the next episode. If you like what you hear and you'd like to support the show, visit Podcast Evolved on Patreon. This episode, we're debriefing the Osiris mission from Halo 5. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, alongside David Arnold.
Hello, everybody.
And Krista Brown.
Oh, so we're playing as this friggin' guy.
He's not that bad, is he?
Did you watch Nightfall?
I did.
Well, yeah, that's right. All right, so this is the first mission debrief for Halo 5. We're going to run through a quick overview like we do of all of the games. Krista's going to take it from here. What's going on? Where are we in the development world of Halo 5?
All right, so 343 Guilty Spark made this game, so there's a lot of propaganda in it, some weird stuff going on. The original release date was October 27th, 2015. That was quite a long time ago.
Oh, so I was
4
in college
years.
still.
We're almost at 4 years, guys. Do you guys feel as empty as I do?
Stop dating the episodes.
All right. The number of missions are 15. 3 of them are non-combat areas, which are quite strange. Ooh. Those missions are not really missions. But some of the other games released in the same year, we got a whopper. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Whoa.
Wow. Bloodborne.
Mm-hmm.
Splatoon, the weird ink thing.
Meh.
Rocket League. That's a sleeper. Ori and the Blind Forest. The original Super Mario Maker.
Mm-hmm.
Dying Light. Metal Gear Solid: The Phantom Pain. And Life is Strange.
Indeed.
Lots of good stuff. So the Metacritic score is sitting at a pretty respectable 84.
That might be the lowest of the mainliners. Was ODST? Might have been in a similar range.
Yeah. I mean, let's just
Still
say
great.
The multiplayer is really solid on this game. So.
Oh yeah.
So the platform and difficulty, we're playing Halo 5 on Xbox One and Xbox One X's. Heroic difficulty. Play on whatever difficulty suits you and you're comfortable with. Sometimes this game can get a little quirky. We'll get into that a little later. But so the timeline covered in this game is October 23rd-ish, 2558 to October 28th, 2558. So just a couple days.
Yep. That's a good solid Halo campaign. Just a week.
Yeah, a nice work week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A work week.
So there are a couple different versions of this game. There's the base game, of course. There's a limited edition, which gave us Warzone Rec Bundle of 14 premium requisition packs. Requisition packs are kind of how you unlock special things, special different weapons and stuff in the multiplayer. It's multiplayer only. It's kind of like loot boxes a little bit, or cards, virtual packs.
It's a microtransaction scheme that I think went down pretty well.
It actually isn't horrible, though I wish the armor was a little easier to get, and you could kind of customize your Spartan a little easier. But other than that, the weapons and stuff like that are really nice. And most of the time, you're getting requisitions to customize your Spartan with weapon skins, armor, visors, all that stuff we've kind of come to love and know in Halo multiplayer. And then you get all these crazy weapons and vehicles for Warzone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun there. Starting out with 14 requisition packs is actually pretty nice. This also comes with Halo The Fall of Reach animated series. We needed the story retold to us again. Yeah.
And only just part of the story, not the whole thing.
Just like the first couple chapters. You get a Guardian model by Metal Earth. It's like this little thing that
ever made that? I'd like to know.
It's really hard to put together.
Yeah, I think I have 2 of them. They're just sitting there undone.
Yeah. You've probably seen them with like Star Wars and stuff like that. It's like literally a sheet of metal that you pop out the pieces and put them together, but all the pieces are always super small. It's like
you gotta bend them, and
it's like playing Legendary on Legos. All right, and you also get, with the limited edition Spartan Lux classified orders and the dossiers on Blue Team and Fireteam Osiris, and an Xbox Live Gold 14-day trial. So you get a little lore sprinkled in. Of course, there is a digital limited edition, which comes with pretty much everything except all the physical stuff. So you don't get the Guardian model or the classified orders and stuff like that. There is the Super Mega Collector's Edition, which includes everything from the limited edition and these crazy detailed, beautiful statues. You can actually still get it on Amazon for a pretty cheap price now. Like, it's gone down in value quite a bit. So you get a Locke statue and a Master Chief statue, and they kind of look like bookends.
Yeah.
A little bit. Which looks really nice. They're
very nice.
It's really, really nice.
They're big.
They are. Oh my
you gotta have
goodness.
some space.
Also, when it first came out, it was like $250. Right now, it's kind of sitting at $140, $45, $100-ish, depending on where you're going.
Yep.
So you can still pick it up pretty easily, actually, which is kind of remarkable for a limited edition release of a game that's from 2015. But
I feel like all the Halo limited stuff is always available everywhere. Pretty soon.
Yeah, you can find Reach really easy. I still see the Halo 3 limited edition helmets everywhere, and every game store I walk into, they always have one. And I'm always looking at it like, ooh, I don't have one of those, and I kind of want one.
Well, I think people fall in and out of their Halo fandom, right? So I'm sure people get hyped by it, and then we're like, I'm good. And get some cash for it and stuff like that.
Yeah, people kind of come in and out depending. Of course, 343 is really good at continuously releasing stuff for us to consume, but when you're just playing the games, sometimes, So, Halo 5 had some marketing.
Yep.
It had marketing.
Indeed.
It did. So
Lots
one
of
the best marketing campaigns that ever came out of Halo is this storytime podcast called Hunt the Truth.
Mwah.
Oh my god.
Did you guys listen to it recently?
It's been like a year maybe.
I've been trucking through it. I'm not all the way through it, but it's so good.
It's kind of like a Welcome to Night Vale kind of series, if anyone's familiar with that, where it's just a person kind of going about like a daily kind of life. They're a reporter looking into the Spartan case, and some crazy stuff happens. It is.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. It's very akin to Sadie's story in a way. Kind of like how it's told, and it's kind of their day-to-day life, and you hear stuff going on in the background when stuff's happening to them.
Yeah, or like Serial, if you guys have heard of the Serial podcast.
That's I've heard
to reference.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because because this was marketing, it was well done, and it's a piece of the lore, but it also gives people that didn't know all about kind of the Spartan, the origins of the Spartan 2 program, a little eye opener, and a little bit of a real background. And I've been listening to it recently and thinking about how would people actually react if this sort of thing came out, from some war hero? How would people actually deal with that? How would the government deal with that? So I think it's well done, and it's well thought through in terms of if this happened in real life, people would lose their minds.
Oh yeah. And of course, the cover-ups would be insane, and all this stuff would be crazy. It really tells kind of a harrowing story, and a harrowing, the reaction of a normal person, like a normal reporter, learning about the Spartan program is a really great way to tell the story. We've heard the Spartan program, people reacting to it in the military and stuff like that, and other Spartans, but just a normal average Joe who really looks up to Master Chief and stuff like that is wait, what happened?
Yeah.
So, it's...
You're what age?
Yeah.
Well, it shows you the lengths that Oni has gone to cover things up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's if you for some ungodly reason haven't listened to this, it is completely 100% worth your time. Very definitely. Worth your time. And of course, if you want to go back and you feel nostalgic, Podcast Evolved does have spoiler casts on it. We did a bunch of episodes on it as it was coming out. So if you want to learn more about it or just listen to stuff like that, we have that for you. Now, on to the commercials. So So, imagine, it's like 2013. Ooh, the Xbox One is just starting to be announced. Ooh, it looks so nice. And, of course, you're like, where's the new Halo? And they're like, here's the new Halo. But you don't know it's the new Halo. It's just this guy walking around in the desert. And you're like, what is going on? And then this giant thing comes out of the ground, and you find out, oh, Master Chief's wearing a poncho for some reason.
The famous poncho chief.
Oh my gosh, this trailer was so weird.
Yeah,
it was
wild.
And you never see the poncho again, but also the action figures that came out of Poncho Chief are really hilarious. I actually have one. I thought it was so hilarious that I bought one.
Yeah,
they're so bulky.
It's really hilarious, and the poncho has never come up ever again. But
it's symbolic, you know. He's lost without his lady.
Well, and also they wanted to do the reveal and stuff like that. Like Microsoft for the beginning, when Microsoft likes to announce a Halo game, they don't want you to know immediately that it's a Halo game. Like they did this with Halo 5, and they've did this with Halo Infinite, where you don't know it's a Halo game until Master Chief comes on screen. Halo Infinite did a way better job, but
yeah.
You still gotta like the introduction of this giant Forerunner machine. It's called a Guardian. It's called Halo 5 Guardians. We're not going to talk about it that much, but you get the introduction of this giant Forerunner machine, and Chief's all sad with Cortana's chip, and his helmet is all cracked, and his armor's all broken. So.
Oh, man.
Oh, what happened, Chief? Why are you in the middle of the desert?
Why you have a poncho on? I don't get it.
And then you start... So it starts with just Master Chief, and then Locke starts getting kind of slowly...
Lots of Locke stuff happens, yeah.
...introduced into it, and you quickly find out that Locke is not your friend, ? He does not like Master Chief. So there are these really great live action trailers called The Cost, which is Chief, and All Hail is Locke. And both of them are making these crazy speeches to each other. We're like
standing over
standing over like them, like they're both of them are. There's a huge like dilapidated Master Chief statue, and the opposite one is like injured underneath it, and they're making these huge speeches. Like Chief is like, "Is this what you wanted? Is this what you were looking for? Was everything you compromised, everything you done worth it?" And it's like,
your mission is over.
Your mission's complete. Yeah, it's like, what is going on?
Do they assassinate each other at the end too?
They
pull their pistol, and then it fades to black.
Okay.
So you never ever see like a bullet being shot or anything like that. Locke's is really cool actually, because he's like, "All hail the conquering hero," and he's like, "You were supposed to be our protector. You're supposed to be so amazing, but you caused all this destruction and stuff like that." And both of them are really well done, and they're very engaging.
Mm-hmm.
They almost tell the story about like Chief falling from power, Locke trying to make it right. You know, both of them are obviously like this kind of hatred in between them too. It's really great, but it's not what we got in the games at all.
Right.
It's really like these are really great, but like there's such a disconnect between these kind of trailers and what the campaign actually is, because you're expecting this giant like fight between the two, and it's just kind of like but
yeah, well, we'll cover off on that.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to all
recap
of that
stuff.
So the other ones are A Hero Falls, The Hunt Begins, and Bullet. Do either of you guys
remember where you have that bullet that spins and there's like words on the side of the bullet, and then it penetrates Chief's helmet?
Yeah. Oh my god, that one was crazy. Yeah. There's a lot of Chief assassination in these trailers.
Yeah, right.
They were killing off Chief at one stage in this game. You know they were.
Yeah.
They might have been.
It looks like they were painting Chief to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
The Hero Falls one is where they're announcing Chief's death.
Yeah.
Person, do you remember that whoever wrote the script, they got it wrong? They said he died in 2560.
It's like
and this game takes place in 2558. And so then 343 posted, because they had a Hunt the Truth blog
they had to retcon
at the time. And then so they had to retcon it. So they posted something from I forget the guy's first name, but Sullivan, who's actually in the podcast. And he talks about how, like, this person must have been nervous or something like that, and they got the name wrong.
That was actually kind of funny, though. Like, that was a big thing, and it was hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, they handled it well, but it's just like, oops. We meant 2558. Anyway.
Is the Halo 2 stuff later on this? Yeah, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So you get a cover art. Some of the, like, ARG kind of stuff was the cover art puzzle, a proper ARG. What was the ARG called? Because I did it.
You did it, yeah.
Yeah, it was this, like, huge, crazy puzzle. Chris from Halopedia was nice enough to let me on his team, and I was kind of learning, and it was really cool because, like, you were kind of given this screen and had no context to what you needed to do, and some of it was, like, you had to click buttons all at the same time. Like, everyone had to log in at once and kind of do stuff together. It was really interesting.
The cover art puzzle was kind of cool, too, because that was, like, I think they emailed out, like, sections of the big image. The main image, and the community had to, like, piece things together, like, oh, I found this image, and they put it in certain places wherever, and eventually, like, when they pulled all these fragments together, it ended up as the cover art with the two heads, you know, and the teams below it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
that was well done.
It was all really cool. There was a lot of interactive stuff leading up to Halo 5 that was really engaging. There was also a making of documentary called The Sprint. It is on YouTube. Very worth a watch, kind of seeing what kind of goes on behind the scenes. And then we come to our additional media. So the movies were episodic releases, were Nightfall, which was the introduction of Locke. You guys both just recently watched it. How was the second watch?
It gets worse.
Really?
Like, it starts strong, and then slowly, like, kind of the resolution kind of falls apart for me. I don't know, that was my take on it. There were some encounters because, you know, we're not going to spoil the whole thing, but there's some moments where it's like, we got to get off this, you know, fragment or whatever, and there's a lot of infighting between the group, and it just felt really forced.
It was an interesting setting, but it just...
Yeah, and the hunter stuff was interesting, but I don't know, David, maybe you have a different take.
I don't think it was worse. I think I feel the exact same about it I did when it came out, which is just, like, disappointed. I don't hate it the way, like, a lot of other people like hate it. There's some good things that it does. Like, I liked the second stories. I liked what they tried to do. I just don't think they executed it very well.
Second stories are very good. I really enjoyed those.
I love the idea of putting, like, the terminals into, like, a film and stuff like that. Of, like, you know, here's extra shit that you can kind of learn. That kind of flesh out some of the characters and some of the backgrounds. But I guess, like, the heated moment, the tense moments of the acting didn't really come across very well, I don't think.
Yeah.
You're supposed
Randall's
to
cool.
Randall's really cool, yeah.
And Randall's one of the most interesting characters in it because of his background, and I think even his acting was brilliant. I thought he was very good. I think, I don't know, like, some of the props didn't look great, is my own kind of opinion, and certain things. I mean, the CG was really good, and I guess the premise had such a great idea, but, like, it just didn't happen. In terms of, like, going back to a piece of the original Halo ring, it's not identifiable at all when they're, like, there. I really think they could have done something and put more kind of foreign architecture into it, or, like, they were hinting at that it's trying to repair itself and getting, like, severely damaged with every cycle, but, like, you don't get that. You don't see any of that, which is kind of disappointing.
The other thing is, like, they do have the Halo tech in there, but at like halfway through it, everybody just takes all their armor off, and they're just wandering around in their, like, t-shirts and stuff. Yeah, so
that's it. They had these cool moments of, like, I mean, I watched the Blu-ray of it, right? Which is I had gotten it and had never actually watched the Blu-ray of it. I watched it on Halo Channel like everybody else originally, and, like, the Blu-ray came with, like, extra little small 4 or 5 minute, like, bonus features, and, like, they're all, like, one of them is about setting up Locke, and one of them about, like, setting up the world and stunts and all that kind of stuff. Interesting, but, like, they, like, in these documentaries, they talked about what they were trying to do, and, like, oh yeah, these, like, we're building up Locke so that he starts here and ends here, and I got the impression that Locke was the same person at the beginning and then he was at the end. So, like, I didn't get the arc. I mean, like, this is obviously, they were heavily invested in Locke, and they were obviously heavily invested in Locke being the key character coming into Halo 5. And I think because I remember when they were at Comic-Con and like there was loads of like stuff leaking about this and about like Halo 5 from the cast and stuff because of the things that they were saying. Like Locke, didn't he announced the Condor before anyone knew what that was. So they had to talk about it really quick. I remember thought that was funny. But he also he said he was the main character of Halo 5, and I remember people losing their minds.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I think he was at the time he was probably right. And what that game was probably changed. Maybe not just in reaction to that, but like with everything else. Because I feel that like this game's story is not what it was when they were marketing it.
You can kind of tell from playing it that like a lot of things have been changed.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird to play sometimes, but I mean the story's still cohesive. It just has kind of that syndrome, that crunch syndrome, where some things just don't properly line up. Something else.
Really quick, sorry, back to Nightfall, is I think that point about the character growth of Locke is really interesting because he starts as this stoic, Oni agent, and you can tell he has morality at the beginning, but he still has morality at the end. he just he doesn't really shift that much, and I think that's an interesting point. It's like if they somehow figured out a way to show him grow more into a more, I don't know. I guess I don't know exactly what it would have been, but yeah, he's the same at the beginning and the end, and then he clearly becomes a Spartan.
And this was supposed to be like a debut for him. Like they were really invested in this character because the actor they used for Nightfall is the exact same voice actor and face model that is in the game. So the dude's exactly the same.
Not voice actor.
Oh, really? Did they change voice actors?
Mm-hmm. Oh, he left to go do the Marvel thing.
Oh.
Luke Cage. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like his voice came, but they got a new actor, Ika Iwadi, I think his name is, to actually do the voice. Who did a great job of doing.
Oh, he did great. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Mike Coulter actually left before Halo 5 got finished.
Yeah.
Well, they were.
One last piece of criticism. Like, I don't think Mike Coulter's strength is science fiction. Like, just listening to the way he delivers certain things, I don't think it was a really good fit from that standpoint. So I'm glad that they got the new voice actor. He did a great job. It's just we have his likeness. We have his likeness to deal with throughout this whole thing, but it's not really, his personality, his voice that ends up in the game.
Yeah. Okay, so the other movie kind of release was The Fall of Reach. It's an animated series. It pretty much just retells like the first kind of couple chapters and kind of the first mission of Blue Team to kind of reintroduce you to the Spartan program and Blue Team. It's been talked to death, so
it's well done. It's worth a watch.
Yeah, it's definitely well done if you don't have time to reread the book and stuff like that.
If you're listening to this, you probably know who Blue Team are anyway, so it's an interesting watch, but you probably don't need it to kind of the way they were building up Osiris and the different sides of the lore, as opposed to just having one Blue Team thing.
Yeah. And then finally we had some... Well, not finally, but we had some cutscenes. So there was a big correlation with Halo 2 Anniversary, which Master Chief Collection was coming out at the time, so it made sense. But they tied it pretty much directly into Halo 2 Anniversary with Locke and Arbiter. Like, there's this whole beginning cutscene where Locke's talking to Arbiter, saying, like, I'm hunting a Spartan. Arbiter's like, oh my god, that's my best friend. He's like, I guess I'll tell you, like, who Master Chief is and stuff like that and stuff he's done. And he's kind of like, don't think about the legends and the stuff that Master Chief's actually done. You should actually, like, look into what the facts are and what he actually did to better find him or something like that. It's very strange.
So we did cover those. If you've been with us this whole time, we did cover those in one of the episodes when they came up in Halo 2, because it kind of like starts. I think Halo 2 Anniversary starts with it, but then that scene is actually later in this game, or I guess it's not in the game, but like when they're in the it's a Phantom, I think is what they're in, but that part is one of these later missions.
The animation's really good in those, though. They're worth watching just to see, like, Arbiter's armor, because it looks really, really cool. All right.
Cold Arbiter is the best Arbiter.
We also got some really cool books in between. So we got Hunters of the Dark, which introduced Vale, who was part of Team Osiris. We have New Blood, which is the sequel to Bad Blood. No, New Blood's...
that's the first one.
We didn't even get Bad Blood yet. So we got New Blood, which is about Buck. And then we got Last Light, which kind of reintroduces Blue Team into the fold without Master Chief, but you kind of get to know the characters a little better. And Fred has
Mainly
some...
Fred.
Yeah, Fred has some kind of smoochy moments, so... if you want smoochy Spartan moments. And then we had some comics. So... as we all know, like, Spartan Ops kind of left the story in quite a state, in quite a strange state. So, Halo Escalation is kind of what bridges the gap between Spartan Ops and Halo 5. It talks about the Janus key. You know, everyone made it to the absolute record, but Halsey was denied by Palmer and Glassman and the local Ancilla, so nothing came of it.
More or less, yeah.
Nothing.
So disappointing.
It's really.
I mean, they
dull.
kind of had to do that, but like they also like Halsey escapes at one point, and then at the very end, like Jewel recaptures her, so that it kind of makes sense between playing, Spartan Ops and then now Halo 5.
And we also get to like.
It's interesting. It is interesting. It's worth a read.
Yeah, no,
lots
it's
of stuff happens.
like,
It introduced lots of cool things, like the Absolute Record is a really cool thing. It doesn't talk a whole bunch about the domain, but there's a lot of cool Forerunner stuff.
Oh yeah, Escalation's really worth reading just to kind of see what Infinity and everyone have been up to.
It does introduce there is a Sangheili Oni operative in there too, which is super interesting.
Oh yeah.
It's really good. Like, some of the first chapters are talking about like negotiations between the Sangheili, the brutes, and the humans, and it's all very interesting. So some of the other really key facts and escalations is we get reintroduced to Chief with Blue Team as a 4-man squad of Spartans, and we get to see what's going on with the Didact.
I think we probably should just say, right, like, he gets composed.
Which he's not supposed to
There
be
you go.
able to get composed. Because he's immune to the composer.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
It doesn't make.
But I think it was like a
they
bunch of composers. There was like a bunch of composers that composed him.
They killed off Black Team. Like,
Oh yeah, that was
like
brutal.
they just dropped the hammer on those guys, and Black Team has only really been in another comic, but they're super cool. Like, they're great characters. I mean, it's another team.
They're not that
It's
cool.
another full
They're
team
not
of
that-
Spartan
they're not that cool.
2s though that they just were like, let's put them in the trash compactor. So
Yeah.
Didact literally just shows up and like just murders them. He's just like yeet, and they're dead. So. And then we get some Tanaka actions in issues 17 through 24 if you want to learn more about Tanaka. So,
right.
because Vale gets an entire book, Locke gets an entire TV series, and Tanaka gets a little part in Escalations. But
She's in a good chunk of it at the end. She's like hangs out with Palmer and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
and she gets like a whole origin story too.
yeah. Okay. Is there
All right.
anything else we want to cover? This has been a long intro.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Now let's get into it. And so we're gonna, I'm gonna give you where we are as opposed, where we left off in the story. David, you have something?
Overall, I'll just say the hype for Halo 5 was unbelievable. I thought they even like the separation between what they achieved and what actually came out, but like everything before Halo 5 came out was insane. And like I was so on board with this hype chain with all the different types of marketing they were doing and the content that was coming out. It was nuts. And if you're a follower of the show, you'll probably remember what we were like. It's obviously the most vivid at the launches that I can remember. Of like everything they did, where like we even got to contribute a little bit to it, which is kind of cool. The Halo 5 launch event was pretty badass. I missed it, but I was actually in it, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, you won something, didn't you?
I won like a whole bunch of Halo merch.
Yeah, that's right.
Including the Halo Nightfall DVD Blu-ray, which I actually finally opened yesterday. And a whole bunch of other kind of stuff, some Boomco weapons and stuff like that. It was cool. And the Halo 5 art book. It's got badass.
They did a great job. Like, even though like it kind of was weird, like even like the multiplayer beta was amazing.
Yeah.
So much fun.
it
It came with Master Chief Collection. So when you bought Master Chief Collection, like when the beta was going, you automatically had access to the beta. So much fun. Like, all of the multiplayer stuff was so good. Like the marketing, the betas, they had pro players playing it. Like, it was really, really good. Like, everything.
Oh, the Sprint too. We didn't talk about that. That's like a web series on YouTube talking about the development of the game.
Yep.
That was well done.
There's some great episodes in that. I watched one about the music, and that was just got me so into it again. because the music in this game is so amazing. There's one or two others just about like the motion capture and all that kind of stuff that went in. That was really kind of interesting, and all the work there, because like the cast in this is pretty amazing. That's one thing to say too.
Absolutely. All right. So yeah, they did a great job of marketing it, but then we'll just kind of talk about throughout probably just the marketing and the actual game don't exactly line up. But all right, so we're going to talk about where we are in the kind of the mainline series as we've been playing. There's a bunch of new stuff in the game, so we're not going to get to the walkthrough yet. It's going to be a little while, but we're going to talk about all the stuff that's new, and just kind of our general thoughts on that stuff. So all right, so the last mission chronologically was Spartan Ops, episodes 6 through 10. So Spartan Thorn and Dr. Glassman managed to rescue each other and eventually got picked up by Fireteam Majestic. Meanwhile, Catherine Halsey manipulated Jewel into abducting her from the Infinity and taking her to the Librarian's memory, where she was gifted the Janus Key, which identifies the location of every piece of Forerunner tech in the universe. Palmer was sent to kill Halsey, but missed the shot because Majestic thwarted her efforts because of Mr. Lasky, right? The Janus Key was divided between the warring factions, and Requiem was sent to its fiery doom by the hand of the Didact. That's Jewel. All right, now we're in Halo 5. This first mission is Osiris. Woo! A series of mysterious Forerunner events have devastated human colonies and triggers Captain Lasky to order Spartan Jameson Locke and his fire team Osiris to infiltrate the planet Kamchatka and retrieve Dr. Halsey. While in captivity, she contacted the UNSC and claims to have vital information about the attacks. Spartan Buck, Tanaka, and Vale follow orders and burst into the planet like invincible superheroes amidst a heated tussle between the Covenant and the Prometheans. The date of the game, there's this little Halsey intro, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then Osiris, this mission takes place in October. I think it's just before the next mission, so it's around October 23rd, 2558. All right, so we're not going to get quite into the walkthrough, as I mentioned, but there's a bunch of new stuff that I think we need to talk about. First of all, we have a 4-team fire team. This is the first time we've ever been playing with a full fire team of named characters. We've always been able to play, 4-player co-op, but this is the first time that everybody has their own. We're not just a bunch of chiefs, so we're not like playing as a couple random Saint Healy.
Yeah. There are many Master Chiefs, like in Halo. In Halo 1, it's just like there are two Master Chiefs.
When Halo 3 did it, where you were each an individual character, I mean, that was interesting. I mean, they became more characters as the time went on, which I thought was cool.
Yep, I think so. There is this revive mechanic that we have to deal with, and they didn't do a really good job. Like if you played Gears of War, that revive mechanic is pretty good, because you can kind of like move around a little bit, right? And it doesn't always, the AI isn't always that great, but the AI in this
you can at least you can at least bring yourself to the AIs to be revived. This one, you're just like, I am glued to the floor.
Right.
Also, I feel
and
like
you're just watching this little meter go down slowly, and you're watching. It zooms out so you can see like where your teammates are, especially playing alone. And you're just like, come on, buddy, come on, get to me. And sometimes they get to you, and then they don't revive you. It's just it
they
gets
like die. Like sometimes you're so prioritized over everything else, they'll just stand in enemy fire trying to revive you, and then they'll die. Mm-hmm. And so if everyone on your team is down, it's an automatic reset. But the other thing is, I feel like you die faster in the campaign versus like multiplayer, so they can highlight kind of that feature, which I hate.
I felt that.
Also, something hilarious is, like, unlike Gears of War, if one of your companions dies, they just actually die and you can keep playing. Like, Linda can just die, and it's just like, oh, Linda's dead, let's keep going. And eventually
they just like appear.
They get rebirthed from the universe, but
I'm okay with that, given what like the difficulties the AI have in this game, and like on the higher difficulties, if that made you reset, oh my god, you would never play this.
No.
Yeah. There, the other mechanic that is part of the 4 team is you can order your teammates to do certain things. So you can order them to certain locations, like send them up above to maybe some cover over there, or you can order them to pick up certain weapons that are laying around, which is good. I like that part of the mechanic. David, do you use that quite a bit? the kind of ordering them around, picking up weapons, that sort of thing with your teammates?
I did. Kind of. I'm trying to do it more in playing it now, just to kind of get familiar with it. I like that it's a one button thing, that they didn't make it a squad shooter. Do you know what I mean? They didn't delve too deep into that. I do like that it's a one button. You can either tell them to go to a place or pick up a thing or attack an enemy. Like, it's contextual depending on what you're pointing at. I like that. I think that's well done. I don't really feel the impact of, like, I've tried to, like, direct. I mean, like, your teammates, depending on what your team have, sometimes they have power weapons, and, like, you can tell them to pick up power weapons. I don't get the feel that they use them all that often. Definitely not compared to, like, if you've been listening to Mission Debrief, I always power up my Marines whenever I get Marines. I equip them with power weapons. I put them in vehicles beside me. Like, I like to bring them with me as, like, backup, and I feel like they do a good enough job most of the time. When you have a team of Spartans and you're directing to them, I feel sometimes they have less impact than they should, and that's probably on purpose, so that, like, they're not just steamrolling the game for you. I understand that, but at the same time, it leaves me a little bit disappointed, especially when I do tell them to pick up a rocket launcher, and, like, Linda's standing there using a Magnum with her sniper rifle strapped on her back. I'm like, come on, girl, we know exactly who you are.
Right.
So I've noticed that, and I've had them, like, direct fire, like, firing on hunters and stuff like that, just to see what they do. Do they kind of coordinate at all? And they don't. Do you know what I mean? There's no sense of, like, I'm fighting a hunter as opposed to, like, a grunt. Do you know, in terms of, like, what they do. So that's a little bit disappointing.
Yeah. Chrissy, anything to add there?
Something cool is that when you're playing multiplayer, you can kind of choose which team member you want to be. So, like, other than, like,
cool.
Locke and Master Chief, you can choose the other 3 members of the team, and each member has a different loadout. So depending on your playstyle and stuff, you get to choose which one you want to play as, which is great.
And also a different HUD, which I appreciate. Their helmets change the HUD that you see. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. And like you said, on co-op, there's obviously the rush because somebody has to be Chief and someone has to be Locke. So it's either the last person choosing gets them if you don't choose one of them. So, like, it's funny having, like, the rush of, like, I want to be Buck because you want anything or something. Or it's cool.
And they're all, I mean, the thing is, they're all the same, really. I mean, their armor looks a little different. The HUD's different. They start with different weapons, but other than that, they're the same. It's not like this isn't a hero shooter, which kind of became popular after Halo 5. We'll see.
Halo Infinite.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So there's no split screen. That's nothing we got to deal with. That was a big disappointment.
That was
a
huge
big, actually.
disappointment. And I was hoping they would they would, like, add it post game, but they kind of just were like, no, we're not. We don't even want to deal with it. So.
Well, I think the way they built the game didn't allow them to do it. So that's the way they explained it away, anyway. And I tend to believe that.
Yeah, it was just such a pain in the ass because now I had to buy, like, another Xbox because every game is going that route too. So
yeah, so there's stories about a bunch of people getting together trying to play Halo 5, like co-op on one screen, and not being able to do that, and then they all had to, like, bring their they had to do, like, a LAN party for the campaign.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it sounds like that's just a Halo 5 thing. All right, so then we have Spartan abilities, and we'll talk about these kind of maybe a little bit more through the campaign. But so there's Smart Scope, and that allows you to really aim down sights on every weapon.
So good.
Crazy.
Yeah,
it's like it's modern shooter conveniences.
Yeah, it's mad to think, like, this is the biggest change in Halo's kind of player mechanics in, like, all the games, in terms of, like, even the controller layout on what you do and even how your Spartan plays. I mean, we'll get into it here now, but, like, it was going from Master Chief Collection to this it's always confusing to me. Like, always, I'm always like, what does this do? What am I doing? I'm boosting when I'm trying to hit melee and all this kind of crap. But anyway.
Yeah.
Rant over.
Absolutely. So Smart Scope, I guess that kind of plays in with hover. So I'll mention hover now because you can jump up in the air and then do your Smart Scope, and then you'll actually float in the air for a bit.
It's
so you
super
can shoot
convenient too.
Yeah, I never use it. I'm not good enough to use it.
Oh, I love it. I use it all the time.
Yeah. I almost use it for traversals to kind of, like, you get an extra bit of distance when you're running and jumping, and then you can kind of hover as you drift forward a little bit further, and then you can boost. And, like, doing that, like, crazy combination of abilities can kind of get you some places when you're traversing, especially when you're exploring and looking for things. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And also, like, if you're crouched behind cover or something, what I do is I jump up, hover, get a couple kills, and then fall back down. It's kind of how I use it.
That's pretty slick. There is slide, which is, I guess you can find that in shooters all over the place now. But slide is one of the Spartan abilities. Thruster, which made its debut more or less in was it in Reach too? The thruster?
No, Halo.
Or was it just in Halo 4?
4.
Okay, yeah. And I liked there was that cool animation where you kind of scooted off to the side, but didn't really use it that much. Maybe just for like the hunter fight when you found it. But I use thruster a lot. It's one of my favorites.
I prefer in this game where you don't go into third person, so you can actually use it like offensively, like you can shoot and retreat backwards. It doesn't, because I felt like when you went into third person, it took you out of the game. It took you a moment to reorientate yourself. And more often than not, you get shot, or like what you were trying to avoid can get you.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a cooldown, so you can't just hammer on the thruster. But yeah, I think it's well done. The ever controversial sprint is in this game,
and this one does not wear out. You can sprint indefinitely, which is amazing.
And they did it. You can sprint as far, because you're a Spartan, right? That kind of makes sense.
Damn right.
But they also tie it to your shield, so while you're sprinting, your shield doesn't regenerate, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, and if you notice,
especially
like when Spartans are sprinting, their thruster packs are going off as well to kind of propel them forward.
I've never noticed that. Yeah. That's cool.
Look at that in like multiplayer or something like that. When people sprint, their thruster packs are like spouting like blue flame or something.
That's awesome.
Clamber, which means you get to climb up stuff, finally.
I missed that so much in Halo 4. I was trying so hard to clamber up things. I'm like, oh shit, I can't.
Yeah. It's just like when you're near a ledge, your guy will just kind of automatic. You have to, I think you hit A or whatever the jump button is, but then you climb up. You kind of grab the edge and climb up,
which is
just huge. Yeah, instead of having to like jump and then tuck your legs underneath you like we used to have to do.
And you can see like Clamber completely changed how they design maps for multiplayer or for campaign. It's just like a whole kind of new territory.
Yep, absolutely. So then the two other ones, which were kind of crazy, like superpower Spartan ones, Spartan Charge, where you get to bust through walls,
or melee,
or you melee, you kill people, right? And then there's the ground pound.
I love the ground pound. It is so satisfying.
Yeah, it's so bizarre, but you gotta you jump up and then you can hover, or if you're at a height and you're jumping off a ledge or whatever, and then you hold down the button and then you'll wind up and you'll see this big circle on the ground, and when you let go of it, you pound the ground.
It's fun. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Also, like, the movement that they added into Halo 5, it makes you feel like an actual Spartan. Like, we've been reading the books, and these Spartans do all these crazy maneuvers and stuff like that, and you actually kind of get to participate in that, while some of the other, this is going to be a controversial opinion, but in some of the other, like, classic Halo games, you're just very not on the rails, but you're very grounded, and Spartans aren't this grounded. They're running around doing these crazy, like, flips and shit like that. So cool.
Yeah, and you'll see that they display all of that in the opening cutscene, which David will talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
All right,
but I do like that. I agree with Krista. I think this is the best representation of a Spartan in a game, because they've incorporated abilities and they're not like items, one-off uses, or like you choose one over other. That overall, a Spartan has a core set of abilities that they can do, and you get that in gameplay. And that's what I've always wanted. Like, I've said it throughout the games, they've gotten closer and closer, and I think Halo 5 does the best job of that, of giving you a Spartan to be as, and you get to feel that. That's pretty cool.
Alright, so Prometheans, they've tweaked Prometheans a little bit. You have these soldiers now, and they are armigers. They refer to them as armigers, and they're more or less robots. They're not like knights, or the knights are, where they were composed humans or Prometheans. They are robots. There's a couple different versions. There's just the regular one. There's a sniper, and then there's officers. And most of the times you'll see officers with like a power weapon or something like that. The knights are a little different. They're not as bullet spongy. It's more fun to fight. And why don't we cover off on that when we actually meet knights in this first mission? Talk about the differences there. The other differences, so skulls, you actually have to collect the skulls now. Like in Master Chief Collection, you didn't have to get all the skulls to actually, use the modifier. But you actually have to collect them here in order to use them. And then there's the intel, 117 pieces of intel. And we are going to go through those similar to the terminals that we've been doing in the previous games. What else? We have this Artemis scan. And only the interesting thing is, so you'll see we bounce back between Osiris and Blue Team, but only Osiris gets to use this Artemis scan, and that helps you find, more or less, it helps you figure out where to go and helps you find the intel that I just mentioned. And David, we talked about this at like ODST, right? Like potentially it was a tie-in.
Yeah, I got myself mixed up. The ODST Sadie story kind of talks about using Argus, which is a system of like using sensors and stuff like and picking up smells, essentially like environmental monitoring to like identify things. And for some reason I had gotten the two kind of mixed up and thought it was the technology we're talking about here is based on that, or they were linked in any kind of way. That maybe they are, but I'm just getting Artemis and Argus mixed up.
Yeah. I think when I did look in Halo P, the Artemis is a evolution from the visor that is used in ODST though, so that there is some technology ties between those two games.
Well, it does identify ammo drops in the same way that the visor used to do in kind of ODST, that would show you the same kind of symbol over like and like weapons would be highlighted and stuff. But
yeah. All right, so the last thing is weapon variants. So we'll find those in each mission. I think I'm not gonna. So I guess I don't know. Just to prep you guys for this, I'm not gonna walk through and find every piece of intel, and I'm not gonna find every weapon. We'll mention them once we're kind of at the end of each mission, or maybe whenever they pop up. But that's just it's a hard thing to do with an audio walkthrough. So I'm not gonna say, hey, you have to go over here and then climb up this, and then you find it. We're just gonna we'll mention it if you want it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're cool. The power weapons are cool, and they are the same weapons that are used in Warzone.
See, what I love is that they're not just power weapons; they're the variants on them, which are awesome.
The answer.
Oh, the answer.
Right. Okay, I think we're ready now. So I did the setup. We talked about other thing that's new. Now we are. I guess we're gonna do Halsey. We're gonna meet Halsey. What's she up to? And then, actually, not what she's up to, but it's kind of a little foreshadowing stuff. And then we're going to do the opening, the superhero cinematic.
Oh my god, we're this long into the show and we haven't talked about the game yet.
I know.
That's crazy. Anyway, the game. Osiris. You pick the mission from the amazing menu. I have to say that. The menu in Halo 5 is beautiful. The music is incredible. I love it.
By the way, if you want to watch the cinematics, don't turn on scoring. Because it turns off all the cinematics.
That's a good point. Yeah. They added scoring in later. I don't think that was there originally.
It's kind of convenient if you're just trying to do a run or get an achievement or something, though.
Get an achievement. Yeah. Turn scoring on. Kills the cutscenes. Which you wouldn't want to do for Mission Debrief, because it's all about these beauties. So, we cut to Halsey walking down a corridor. She walks up to a door and pushes her hand on it and walks into a lab. Clearly hers. And then the best Easter egg in all of Halo.
It's so good. When I first saw this, I was so excited.
Oh, me too. I was like, oh my god, they're going to use stuff from the journal. The journal's important. Look at it. Look at the journal. And she drops her journal, which is the famous Holly journal, which was a real physical thing that was given one of probably the best things to ever come in any exclusive edition of a game, where it was so tied into the lore. It's her journal that she wrote across many years of like the Spartan program, even before it and during, and I think a little bit after and stuff like that. So it's cool to see that even in like quote unquote modern day Halo, that it's still there with her, that she still has it, because I think it was confiscated by Oni at one point, and which is kind of interesting. And like a lot of people have read it and have referenced it. You see that in
I think this is before it was confiscated by Oni.
You're 100% right. That would make way more sense. Yeah. Because obviously right now you see her. It shows it kind of pans across her work table, and you see a picture of her daughter Miranda Keys. Sad, which is a sad moment. No sign of Jacob. Oh, she should have really had it. Anyway, scrolls across. She pulls out the device that we've seen in Reach for housing the AI's chip, which we never see again. Weirdly, because the chips are just now on keychains now at this stage. So she walks over to this device, and you hear her. She's talking to Locke, essentially. I get the impression that it's almost like she's leaving a message as opposed to having a conversation with him. So she's pretty much saying like,
or kind of like an inner monologue.
Yeah, it is. But she mentions Spartan Locke, so I get the impression it's a message to him, especially because you see her kind of like download Cortana into this chip. They share a nice little kind of moment, and she pretty much says like at the end, like kind of, I know Oni are going to tell you to kill us both at the end of this, and I'm assuming both means her and Cortana. Well, that's what I'm guessing.
Or her in chief.
Her and chief. Oh, it could be. Yes. Yeah, that's good.
I think of it both ways, but I think it might be more towards the Cortana thing because they're both in this cutscene.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I thought it. But then you have a point, Colin, where at this point you think, oh no, I suppose.
Like based off all the marketing and stuff.
Yeah,
like
do you know what's happening? Yeah. Anyway,
I
don't want to get into this.
Truth.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't want to spoil too much ahead. Then this amazing song starts to play. And I can't remember. I think it's either called The Light is Green or it's actually called Kamchatka. I can't remember which one.
Mm-hmm.
I meant to listen to it today and find out exactly. But anyway, it's the intro music. It's incredible. And you see a Spartan helmet, the lovely Microsoft Studios little kind of thing comes across.
It's very cinematic. Like, I love this intro.
And then an amazing hologram comes down out of it. It's obviously like a briefing room. You see Tanaka stand up and look at it. 343 logos plays. And you see this 3D holographic amazing thing kind of briefing play out. You get Lasky introduced again, kind of telling you what the mission is and what you're doing. And you get these lovely headshots of each of the Osiris team. You have Buck, Vale, Tanaka, and Locke, all kind of getting briefed by Lasky essentially, saying what they're doing. 5 colonies have experienced identical events, massive destruction, Forerunner and Origin. They're trying to figure out what's going on. In the meantime, Halsey has managed to contact them and tell them, I know what's going on, come and get me. And that's pretty much what Osiris is being sent to do. They've got Katrin's location. They're going to send this team in to extract her out and find out what she knows. Palmer comes on and gives them the kind of standard briefing because she's obviously the commander of all Spartans, but I'm not sure how that plays into only specific Spartans, which is kind of weird because the Spartan branch is obviously separate now, but obviously Oni is still Oni and would have their own Spartans. Anyway, I can't really remember. I think it's kind of discussed a little bit in some of the Bad Blood books about Buck and stuff like that, of how he interacts. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. He pretty much says like Halsey is with Julam Dama. If you get a chance, take him out. Locke pretty much says, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Let's rock and roll. You see the guys kind of gear up. They get their helmets. Buck says a funny little quip. Nathan Fillion looks amazing.
Also, yeah, they made Nathan Fillion like extra handsome.
They sure did. They turned up the sex in the slider. Just so you know.
Just like de-age him a little bit and then just extra handsome.
Well, they give a little bit of they kind of build. I think Buck is obviously such a well-loved character that like he's almost the center of the team, just from a fan perspective looking in. Especially because I was going in this not liking Locke anyway, so very much I was biased watching this team, even though like I had no real reason to dislike them because I thought Vale was pretty awesomely done in Hunters in the Dark. The book itself isn't amazing, but when you look at it as terms of it's just introducing her, it's fine. It kind of sees why she's kind of a new Spartan even here. So like you get that interesting that she's a linguist. She's not a soldier, so it's interesting to see them be turned into a Spartan and brought on this kind of team. You get Buck, who everybody knows the backstory of Buck, and Tanaka is just the quiet one essentially. But a lot of these cutscenes I think are all a play on Buck and Locke. Yeah. Their relationships, especially because Buck used to be a team leader and didn't want to anymore, and has now become part of a team where obviously Locke is in charge. But I think Locke looks to him a lot in terms of like as being obviously somewhat peers, in terms of where we've both been like team leaders, we've made hard choices and stuff like that. I like their relationship. I like seeing it build and stuff like that. I think that's quite interesting.
It's fairly one-sided though, that's the thing.
I think so.
Buck is kind of the jokester guy, and Locke is supposed to be the straight man, but he's almost too straight to the point of being disrespectful. But anyway. Yeah. Sometimes I don't like his responses to Buck. I'm like, it doesn't seem like you should have said that. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Let's not gripe on it. It's amazing. This cutscene, all the team just jumps out of the back of a pelican, pretty much. And they're in like high orbit, which is amazing. And then you see them drop in the crescendo of the music, and then the title card of the game, Halo 5 Guardians.
Good.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. And
like there's a battle going on. The Covenant are fighting with Forerunners, which is weird because you're thinking, what the hell happened there? So it's pretty much the team just drop in. It's so good. There's just destruction everywhere. It's a war. It's so good, guys. If you're not watching it, watch it right now.
It's beautiful. It's so well done. the thing that I didn't like was that they revealed this cutscene like as a trailer.
Yeah.
Now,
which I didn't like. I wish they would have saved this, because this is a really big wow moment.
If they had saved it, it would have blown us all away. I remember watching it as a trailer, it blowing me away. But like, if we didn't
on your the first time seeing it on your big TV, everything's ramping up. Like,
I know the reason they probably did it was to get you hyped for Osiris. Do you know what I mean? To buy into Osiris, And to be honest, nothing sells Osiris better than this cutscene.
Yes.
Like
this is their highest moment.
And they deliberately did this in a certain way and did the next cutscene for the other team a certain way to show the difference between them, and I thought that was brilliant. I always liked that. I remember some documentary said that we deliberately did this way and the other one this way. So we'll talk about that next episode. But anyway, the team lands, they make groundfall, and it's just Spartans kicking ass running down this snow mountain with like elites fighting and like Covenant fighting with Forerunners, and they're just blowing their way through. You see a Wraith flip over. Buck is shotgunning everybody. They're boosting. There's ground pounding going on. There's amazing kind of they do the Spartan charge through things.
Going in and out of like the ships and stuff.
Yeah. Vale Vale just has an SMG and she kind of like bounds her way into a Phantom into the middle of it and just wrecks shop.
It's so cool.
Takes on two elites with swords and like just like she's like pulls her pistol and is just shooting the crap. Just beats the crap out of everybody on this thing. And then like the camera pans out and just follows the rest of the team as they're still charging down. More ground pounds happen. There's like raids. I'm trying to describe this action-packed amazing thing because it's so good. Oh my god. I hope you can get the sense of just how good it is. Just watching Locke rip dudes out of wraiths and then like armigers and soldiers come in, and the team is just so smooth. And then they look back up the mountain and a Covenant carrier is crashing down in amongst them. And they literally just gotta run. And you just see them running and shooting and gunning as they go. And like the mountain collapsing behind them in this big wreck. The music is so good. And then all four of them kind of drop off a cliff at the same time into the camera. And then it just like ends. And it's so good. And the mission begins.
Well, they continue it with the gameplay because then Buck like tackles one of the elites. And then his energy sword flies up in the air. Locke grabs it and then assassinates one of the other elites. It's pretty nuts.
Brutally jams it into his throat.
Yeah. And then more of the ship comes and falls down and just crushes a bunch of the Covenant.
So cool.
There's a great moment where like the team look up and there's loads of Covenant there and Buck says something like, "Oh wow," or like here we go, and then like the ship crashes down and kills them all. And then like Buck goes, "We could have taken him." It's just like
yeah, and then you can kind of, there's some that are alive. You can clean a couple up. You can get an assassination.
Yeah, you can assassinate some of the
animation. Yeah, if you want to. Can I just offer one bit of criticism to this cinematic?
How dare you?
How dare you? No, you can't.
Elites and the elites here, and then at the end, they're very oafish. They're not very, like, it doesn't seem like they're very capable. And granted, it's going over the top to show like how amazing Spartans are, but like the point where you talked about Vale like hopping into the Phantom and then like killing everybody, like the elites are just kind of standing there watching her, and then one like swipes a sword at her really slowly and then she murders everybody. But that's my only little bit of criticism.
She also dropped out of the sky.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, they were caught off guard. Yeah, that makes sense.
It also follows on from what you said kind of about like how this Covenant plays, and that they're not standard Covenant, so maybe they're not up to the standards. We've kind of made that comment in Halo 4 and Spartan Ops and stuff like that, how the elites are portrayed. There are slightly differences, and you have to think about it. That's these elites. They're not the best of the best. They are.
Sure.
There are religious zealots.
They're not actually elite.
Yeah.
They're just regular old Sangheili.
Sick burn.
So it's cool though because the cinematic ties in directly to like what you see off onto your skybox off on the left is this big giant war that's going on the entire time through this, especially the beginning part of this mission. And so take a second and just take a look and let's see what's going off on there. You'll approach some Covenant fighting some Forerunners because that's really what's going on here. And then did you guys notice the Spirit dropship right away?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen that. We didn't get that in 4, right? We haven't seen the Spirit dropship, I think, since, was it CE? Didn't they take it out in 2?
No, Spirit's been in a few different games. It was definitely brought back in Reach. It was in ODS.
Yeah, it was in
it was brought back in Reach. But Reach was a precursor, right? So, like, chronologically. Anyway, it's good to see the Spirit dropship where all those people can jump out of the side, both sides, and it's this little Tong-shaped ship. The dropship, it's fun to see. So yeah, now we're just getting acclimated. This is really a tutorial mission, and I'll probably blaze through most of it. But you're getting used to all of your new abilities, and there's things to jump up on top of, and you can test out your Spartan charge in a little while, and you can do your ground pounds, and you can clamber, you can do all that cool stuff. It's not terribly difficult. If you can get ganged up on in certain spots, if you're not careful, or if you go too far ahead, you will get a little bit overwhelmed. But what do you guys? Let's talk about, like, what are your favorite weapons that you're playing with right now out of the gate? Are you kind of picking up everything, or are you sticking to your original loadout? David, what are you going with right away?
I stuck with the original loadout, but there's not a lot of ammunition, so like you pretty much gonna have to drop and change whatever you've got. Mm-hmm. So I kind of picked up a bit of everything, and just because I'm played Halo 5 in a while, just to kind of get my feel for the different weapons. I do love the light rifle. I love how it scopes in.
Yeah.
It's really satisfying. A few other things. The Magnum's
pretty good.
What's the
400 pistol too? It's a little different, right? You don't have that
bolt
charge.
Yeah. Pulse shot. It doesn't charge anymore, but it kind of homes in a little bit. So there's a little bit of tracking on enemies, so it's okay. Suppressor's alright.
Suppressor hones in a lot this time. It's completely different from Halo 4 as well.
Oh, that's true. I didn't actually use it, so yeah, that's true. There is a bit of, you can get the scatter shot. That's okay.
The scatter shot's great.
That's okay.
I used it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
How dare you?
The storm rifle's a little better for me in this game.
Yes. I
like the animation, the way it feels. It feels a little better than Halo 4. They enhanced it. Krista, what about you?
I mostly picked up a light rifle and a scatter shot and kind of just used that because there's a lot of ammo for both of those weapons throughout this mission. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's what I stuck with.
Well, so we have these soldier thingies. We mentioned them at the top of the show.
Armigers.
What do you guys? How you feeling right away here? Like, what the hell's going on?
I think they're a way better kind of higher class enemy than just having knights everywhere. Mm-hmm. We get to knights later, but knights become a little more special, where the armigers are kind of like the elites, so they're everywhere. Their teleporting is a little annoying, but appropriate for what they are. And they're really fun to fight. I think they're really fun. I think they're great. I think they add some nice diversity. Are you able to snipe them
pretty easily? Because they do have those like weak points, right?
Oh yeah, they have a weak point on their back and then their head once you hit punch off their helmet. But if you're using like a sniper rifle, high-powered rifle, you can get them in one headshot.
And it's a similar mechanic to what we're used to in Elites. Is like you cause a little bit of damage to them, or decent amount of damage, and then they kind of burst, and then now they kind of expose their body. Yeah. That glow on the inside, and then you can kill them from there. Yeah. What are the assassination animations like? I don't think I assassinate these guys.
A lot of knives and stuff like that. Yeah. The night ones are really, really
Locke
great.
Uses knife lock.
I think the crawlers have the classic, rodeo kind of assassination where you get on their back and snap their necks. All the Covenant ones are pretty standard. But the Armiger is pretty much you just stab them. Like you hit him in the back, you turn him around, you stab him in the face kind of thing.
Okay. The crawlers die differently. Have you noticed that? That was one of the things that popped out to me right away.
Yeah.
They don't
just
burst.
Break apart. Yeah, they actually die like kind of dogs. Do you know what I mean? They kind of fall over, or they have like a different kind of death animation.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. How are you feeling about soldiers, David?
I don't mind them. They're fine. I don't find their teleport is pretty annoying, but not as egregious as like Halo 4.
Oh yeah, no.
I like that it isn't just knights and dogs. Now that there is a third tier of enemy that we can fight, and that they're like as susceptible to like headshots and stuff like that. That are not as armored up. They're okay.
Also, to kind of defend their teleporting, you know exactly where they're teleporting to. They kind of have like a light as they're teleporting. They just don't like phase out of existence. They kind of like move, and you see like kind of bits and pieces of them moving with them, and then you see them pop up somewhere else. So you can track them. It's not like the knights where they just kind of yeet behind you.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because the knights before, they did teleporting, and then Forerunners clearly had a strong grasp of that technology, so it would make sense that these guys do the same thing. I find them to be annoying, but I would rather fight them than a Watchers. We don't see any Watchers here.
Not in this one.
We're the Watchers.
True.
Nope. I think we get them later, but not right now. Then we do get to test out our Spartan Charge here, so we get used to the gameplay here. We fight a little Covenant, a little Forerunners, then they all eventually attack us. Then we see this like iced over wall as you're chasing the first soldiers that you're going after, and then you get to do your Spartan Charge. A lot of people, it's funny watching other people like fail at it, and I remember like trying to get used to it. It's like you got to get the timing right. You run a little bit, and then you hit the button at the right time, and then you kind of burst through it. It feels good. One thing, just as a little random, but one thing I was hoping for more of out of Halo 5, and maybe we'll get this in future games, but like more destructible environment rather than just like these one small little sections.
Yeah.
But who knows?
It's kind of
sure
nice to have
big
at
effort.
least. Like this is the first kind of Halo where we had like you can open up new paths by destroying things.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So we do that, and then we burst through this, and then we continue on. I think meanwhile the team is talking about like Halsey and saying how like she contacted Lasky about these events. Continue fighting on.
They talk about Jewel.
Talk about Jewel a little bit. Yep, exactly. And then let's see here. We just kind of continue along this ridge here. There is a skull coming up here. What we do is we continue on, and there's like this door. And again, you use your Artemis scan, so they kind of introduce you a little bit to the Artemis scan. Actually, I think it's really introduced a little bit further on. Like they actually talk about it a little bit more. But you can do your Artemis scan, and I think you hit down on the keypad or up, one of the two, on your directional pad. So you do that. It won't find the skulls though, so you still have to find those on your own. It'll find the intel. But before you enter this first kind of Forerunner-y door, the skull will be off onto the left. I think it's the Black Eye skull, I believe. So grab that, get an achievement, and then you can use it for later in the game. You enter this Forerunner door here, and then they talk more about the Artemis scan, and like you have to use that to kind of find the button that you need to hit up top. It gives you a little bit of a jumping puzzle to jump and then clamber up onto this center section, and then you hit the button and then proceed. Anything else on the Artemis scan in general, guys? How do you feel about that added mechanic?
It's a weird mechanic to add. I think especially because it's only given to one side of the game. It feels a bit unusual.
I like the fact that you can press a button and know where to go. Just in general.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's really easy on the battlefield to get like turned around and be like, oh wait, what was I supposed to be doing? So it's kind of nice to be able to reorient yourself. Like I know Chief doesn't have Artemis scan, but if you press a button on his HUD, it gives you a waypoint. So I just like that. I think it's really nice. I think more games should have that. I get distracted.
Well, a lot of games do. You talk about The Witcher 3, like you have your whatever that Witcher vision is.
Yes.
You can like see footsteps and things like that. So a lot of games, it's just a video gamey type mechanic. I like it. I also like the little like the glowing ball that's around the intel. I think that's presented pretty
cool.
well. And then also like when you push it, it'll scan, and then as soon as it finds something, it'll have that little ping. And if it's right next to you, it'll ping right away. And you're like, oh, it's nearby. But if it's not, it'll like take a long time, and then it'll finally ping at this small little sound off in the distance. I think that's a good way to introduce, how finding all the pieces of intel. All right, so we're gonna proceed through a little cave here, and then Vale speaks up about how she can hear, or she understands Sanghelian. That's David mentioned that she's more of a linguist and she can translate things. So it gives a little bit of a background on her character here. You proceed further, and then you see this giant leg
Yep.
like stomp right in front of you. And that thing is a kraken. What the hell is a kraken?
A flying scarab, pretty much.
It's huge. This thing is enormous.
It's so cool.
It's so cool. It's the new Scarab, essentially, is what you need to think about. A mobile weapons platform with 3 legs.
I think it's too big. It's enormous.
It's ridiculous.
Like, it's cool, but it's so huge. It's just overwhelming. I don't know.
Well, Colin doesn't like big things, apparently.
I like scarabs.
Oh, wow. Cool. You're going to get totally blown away later on in this game.
So you have this giant thing walking along the side of your, I guess, just the ridge. And the way they explain it is they're using it. So it is for weapons. It's not for excavation.
That's the harvester.
The harvester, okay. So the Kraken is a big giant war machine. They're using it to more or less distract the Forerunners. The Covenant is using it to distract the Forerunners and just kind of leverage as their. I think the whole mission, and we'll talk about this a little bit at the end, is they're trying to get just more Forerunner tech a little bit, you know. So we'll see here in a little bit the conversation that Halsey has with Jewel. But so we just kind of proceed here. We do get introduced to those what do I call them, captains, the other soldiers that have the power weapons, the turrets. Those turrets are pretty cool.
Splinter
I like those
turrets. They're so
Splinter
cool.
Turrets.
Yeah.
Pick one up. You'll have a good time.
Or even better, try to leave it in its spot and just blast away. Although they're usually in spots where you're going to get flanked.
Yeah,
so
the Kraken is actually called a Covenant excavation walker, repurposed as a siege tower.
Oh,
there you go.
Okay.
So it's the Type 55 ultra heavy siege tower, also known as the Kraken. So there you go.
The other thing so just, you know, as you're playing this, again, it's hard to look off to the side and kind of see everything. Definitely look off to the side and see all the fighting that's going on. It's just throughout this whole mission. But you do see those, what were they called? Like gravity cannons or whatnot from, remember Halo 4 during the Mammoth mission? There's a bunch of those off onto the side, and those things are trying to assault.
Lasers, big cannons.
Yeah, they're trying, particle cannons, I think. They're trying to assault the not only the Covenant ships, but then also they're firing at this giant Kraken thing. Very cool. There's a couple more chances to, you know, Spartan charge through the walls here off on the side, and I think maybe within there's some intel. Did we find? I think we found the. Yeah, we already went past the power weapon, or at least one of the power weapons. I think it's like Oath. What is it called? Oathbringer or something like that.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. I briefly looked for it today, but I didn't YouTube it. I just kind of like, I knew kind of where it was, but I couldn't find it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called the Open Hand Bolt Shot.
Open Hand. Okay, gotcha. I think I feel like there was a shotgun in here too, but maybe not. So there might be multiple.
The shotgun is actually where where we first see the Kraken. The Open Hand is before that, where you first see the soldiers. So the shotgun is called the Loathsome Thing. It's a scatter shot.
Ah, gotcha. There you go.
I think Loathsome Thing is just like, it has like 1,000,000 rounds in it.
It's a 10 rounds. I think it's slightly stronger. I think you can reload it pretty quickly as well.
Yeah. All right, so let's continue up here, and there's a little bit of a sticking point here. So you have the two turrets off on the side. There's a door to go through, and a bunch of soldiers are up front here. Really, not much Covenant has lasted here, but they're trying to stop you from getting through here. Anything? Do you guys typically go, Krista? Do you get on a turret? Do you go grab one of those things, or are you just sniping everybody from a distance? What's your approach on this?
I light rifled most everyone in from a distance, but then I grabbed the splinter turret to move into the next room.
Okay. Oh yeah, that makes sense. So once it was clear, yeah, you want to bring that thing with. That thing's so sweet. Sweet. All right. So, I guess David, any difference in approach?
I pretty much did the exact same thing today. I just took the splinter turret into the room and wreck shop.
Yeah, I think I tend to get a little bit further advanced. You know, if you've listened to this and you probably understand my playstyle, I kind of charge up ahead, and I think there was a lot of moments where I was trying to be, I needed to be revived, and I was frustrated with how slow it was or how bad that mechanic is in this game. So then you kind of eventually have to just fall back and do things from a distance. So you go through this other room. There's some intel in here. You bend around the corner, and then now we're introduced to the new knights. And Tanaka mentions them once you open this door here, and they're a lot better. They're way better.
They're so much nicer.
Yeah, there's tons of knights in this room. Lots of, I think, is there Covenant in here too? Yeah, there's Covenant in here too. They're all fighting because we're getting close to Jewel and his guards, I guess. But there's enough knights in here for you to get used to how to fight them now. So they have little lights on their kind of like parts on their shoulders, which you can blast off their armor, which is great. Feels good. And then when does the back always exposed? Is that how it works? Or is it not exposed until you blast off both the arms?
I think you need to just put a couple rounds in them and then it becomes exposed.
Okay.
It's kind of when their helmet falls off too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But them breaking apart and kind of staggering a little bit is it makes them so much more dynamic and fun to fight. The fact that you also have a team makes it more interesting too, because you can more easily flank them, have one draw their attention. You can actually direct your team to focus on one of them. Overall, it's just they did a really good job of evolving the fights with the knights. This whole room is pretty much just that. It's Forerunner fights, and then it's cutscene time. So anything else to add before we talk about the way this thing wraps up?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything. I think the knights are better now just because they're not bullet sponges. There's actually a strategy, which is actually super refreshing, because now like the soldiers are kind of a bit more bullet spongy, but the knights, you kind of have a strategy on how to kill them. You can only assassinate them once the back armor is off, by the way.
The knights.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, they feel like little mini bosses now, a little more so than what they felt before.
It's kind of like the hunter category, where they're kind of...
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally agree. Cool, all right, let's do this cutscene then. Let's wrap it up.
Let's do this cutscene. So, blue team goes through the door. You should notice straight away that Buck...
Not blue team.
Not blue team, sorry. Osiris moves through the door. Should notice straight away that Buck has a light rifle, which I thought was interesting, because normally the cutscenes, they stick to their weapons. Their standard dogs and their weapons. So, it goes to Jewel and Catherine having an argument, pretty much. He wants results now. She says, I can't give you results right now. We need to kind of move out. They're kind of have a little tiffy-taff, a little back and forward. You can see that their relationship is strained. Halsey's just being badass Halsey, like totally unintimidated by Jewel.
Yeah.
You see like Osiris kind of take position. You see them kind of stealth up, and pretty much Locke gives the go ahead, and then like amazing things happen. Buck pretty much snipes a dude one shot with a light rifle, which is not possible.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it cuts through his shields and like pretty much snipes a dude. Vale is just amazing. She does a crazy flip over an elite and just kind of like kicks the crap out of him. Locke kind of ducks under Jewel and kind of shoots his way through, stabs him a shit ton with his knife, climbs up on his back and just jabs it right in his throat, and that pretty much is the end of Jewel Dama,
which is weird. Yeah, it felt weird for like, because Jewel has been in books, he's been in Spartan Ops, and he's obviously in this game. He's been built up quite a bit. Yeah, and comics. Yeah. Like,
he's been around a long time, and he was an interesting enemy that I think didn't get fleshed out properly. And in terms of the games, I mean, he was the center of Spartan Ops, which we've already discussed in detail. And I guess just to see him die so quickly.
It felt
weird.
If
you didn't play Spartan Ops and you're not a lore person, like if you just play the games, like you're like, who is this dude?
Yeah, you wouldn't really care. Like it would be it's just another elite that Locke killed in a pretty cool manner. And Locke, calm as you please, just says, Captain Lasky was like a word, did you please, Catherine? Dr. Halsey, and Halsey goes, it took you long enough. Pretty cool. And the next cutscene, it's part of this game, isn't it? Part of this mission.
Yeah.
I mean.
No, I think.
No.
No,
it's
I think
not?
it starts. Blue team starts with the next mission. So.
Okay, no, because.
There.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the achievement. I'm seeing the achievement pop on this walkthrough. So that's it. Right there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed with the way that they killed Jewel. He didn't seem like his whole entourage and his guard. Like it just seemed way easy. But again, I know that they're with the opening cutscene and the way that they're really trying to show how powerful Osiris is and these Spartan 4s. So they're they make it seem too easy in my mind. There's not enough of a fight here, but I kind of get why they did it. They just wanted to show the prowess of Osiris and this group of Spartans. So they make it look easy. It just felt too easy as a consumer of Halo, as a lore person. Any other thoughts?
Again, I see what you mean in terms of like Buck should not have killed that dude in one hit with a light rifle to the head. That's not how that weapon works. But again, the cutscene stuff was cool. It was a team of Spartans being badass and wiping out a team of Sangheili pretty quickly in efficiency. And it just quickly wraps up a big characters and connects us with bringing Halsey back into the fold of UNSC.
Yeah. And I didn't feel that way right away. Like, watching originally, it's like, oh, damn, they killed Jewel already, you know? But, like, watching it again and playing it again, I was like, oh, they really didn't put up much of a fight here, but oh well. Anything else, Krista, before we go into trivia? And then we're going to do some more. We got all the other stuff we got going.
Yep. No, I think we're good. I think this is a good opening moment. Hooray.
All right, let's do any trivia to add? Or did you talk through most of it?
There's a few. There's a little bits and pieces. Osiris, this mission, is the only first mission from any Halo campaign to feature more than one class of enemy forces. So in this case, the Covenant and the Promethean. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
The energy sword that Locke uses in the opening cutscene can be found right behind him. You can pick it up, but it has no battery. So I thought that was kind of cool. I did that today. The open hand, like I said, and the loathsome thing are in this game. They can be picked up in the mission. The final cutscene, Dr. Halsey says she's supposed to say causal reconciliation, and she actually says casual reconciliation.
Oh, causal reconciliation?
Yeah. She actually says casual in the actual cutscene. I thought that was interesting.
Gotcha.
There's nothing else crazy, and there's like glitches and getting through the map, and you can apparently jump onto those Promethean cannons and get fired up into the map, and all sorts of madness are possible. Again, there's some bits and notes in terms of like the loadouts of your team is slightly different than the rest of the game and stuff like that, and kind of changes in co-op. But again, nothing mental. There is some cool stuff. On Legendary, there are 7 hidden knives that can be found. You have to shoot the first one will turn many of the weapon caches from Forerunner weapons into humans. Shooting all 7 will reveal a hidden boss fight in the final temple room that will summon a Warden Eternal, an oversized Promethean knight granting the player you can get active camouflage and replacing their current weapons with Prophet's Bane and a Type 54 plasma pistol.
What?
Dang. Gotta try that.
I did it. It's mental.
I bet. That's nuts.
And, it's on Legendary, so, crazy.
Oh, on top of it, yeah. Oof. Yes. Cool. Awesome. All right, let's do some intel.
Okay.
Krista.
So, I don't know why this happened to me. I don't know who hates me at 343 that decided to do this. But, like...
There's only 117. Don't worry about it.
Good number.
But instead of doing one terminal mission, they decided to do like 7 to 8 intel per mission. And intel is like getting a little piece of a terminal that is split up between like a couple seconds, and then you have to keep finding the other one and the other one and the other one. But it's usually like one story that's going on. They're data pads with audio logs. You don't have to read them, they just play. You have to stand by them, or else you won't be able to hear it anymore. If you walk away, the sound gets further and further away, which I find kind of annoying, because I just want to keep playing the game and don't want to stand there for like 30 seconds like some kind of dummy. But yeah, so this one has a couple different intels. We have 7, I think. 4 of them are Dr. Catherine Halsey, our good friend. She's talking about a signal. She's like, I'm not sure if they're messages or communications. They're like echolocation, a signal bouncing off foreigner objects, mapping, searching for something. But what could she think to find? She talks about penetrating a structure, pinpointing signals, and then kind of talks about how annoying the elite's kind of religion is, because it's keeping her from, figuring out what these signals are doing. She says she attained some new scans of some Forerunner glyphs. One completely new, a symbol that refers to a demon who sleeps in the ground and must not wake. She's like, does this relate to the signal? I don't know, that's kind of weird. The final one we get from Halsey is, she's reading about Forerunner stuff. She's like, these Forerunner structures are erratic, it's kind of weird. the signals bouncing off all of these locations. She is trying to access them directly and failing. So someone is searching for something and sending signals out to try to find it, and Halsey's like, I don't know what's going on. Our next log is from Mr. Jewel Mandama, who is talking about the native defense systems and how they've been disabled, Halsey not being able to bring the alert system down quite yet, and that Promethean forces are going to arrive, and then he kind of just says she's more trouble than she's worth. And then we get an Ungoy personal log. The Ungoy is talking about how Jumanjama says he can go to Kamchatka, and get big weapons, but this place is so cold. I hate it. But maybe if weapons were big enough, we can smash the Arbiter. I hope he goes squish when it happens, or maybe pop pop. The Ungoy ones are pretty funny.
Yeah.
And then the final one is a covenant combat order to fall back to a holy site and to keep the Prometheans, like in crawlers and stuff, at bay, which is where you kind of find Jewel Mandama. They're kind of in this little section, and everyone else is trying to keep them out of there. So that's all of them. Hooray!
Very nice. Yeah, we'll just continue to cover those, and they do fold into the mission and what's going on, and then they drop some other pieces of lore here and there. But I think they're worth covering, so thank you, Krista, for slogging through it.
Good job, Krista.
Yeah, I know. I still haven't collected them all, so by the end of our walkthrough, I will finally go through and get them all, but I have not. All right, let's do some community questions, and we will get out of here.
Yeah, let's. I'm up first, will I? Shall I?
Yeah, you do it. You go for it.
Let's do it. Colin Perkins created a poll. Oh, we got one of these. At October 1st at 2:45 p.m. What's the best Spartan ability in Halo 5? Just a question for Mission Debrief, Halo 5 Osiris episode. We have the Smart Scope, Thruster Pack, Clamber, Ground Pound, Sprint, and Spartan Charge, Stabilize Hover, and Slide. And that is the order they went in. Everybody loved the Smart Scope, which is weird. I didn't think the Thruster Pack would be as high. Or like the basics, like things like Clamber. Yeah, it's weird. I love the Spartan Charge. I forget about it, but I love it. I think it's cool.
Any comments?
We actually had 4. Patrick Jack says Thruster Pack all the way, mainly because I can constantly get myself into a bunch of oh shit moments. Brian says unpopular opinion, but I have to say my favorite is Clamber. Gave Halo a more realistic feeling, since it sometimes kind of feels weird to have really high jump height, but anyway, this is just my opinion. Nothing wrong with that, Brian, I can see that. Brad says I voted for Smart Scope since it does make every weapon better, but I think the Ground Pound and Clamber are solid choices too. Too many times I switched to another Halo game after playing 5 and found myself wishing I had those abilities. That's very fair, I kind of agree. And Gwen says, I'd rather have gone with just about any of them, but landed on Hover just to represent. Fair play.
Very good. I did post a second poll for the worst one.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll find it.
Oh, so he did. That's sneaky Colin Perkins. Look at him. October 1st at 2:47 p.m.
Don't read it all again. Just this is the worst one.
What's the worst Spartan ability? Question for Mission Debrief. Halo 5 Osiris episode. It's weird. Yeah, it's not. It's almost the opposite, but not quite. But I think that's fine. So Ground Pound is the worst by a good bunch. A lot of people dislike Ground Pound. And Spartan Charge. Interesting. Didn't think that. And then you have the Stabilizer and Slide. All the rest are unvoted for. We have a few more comments. I thought we'll go into Lance says, I stopped counting how many times I got myself killed because of the hover. I die a lot because of trying to pull off Spartan Ground Pound. So like I almost stop using it most of the time. And definitely in multiplayer I don't use it. It can be satisfying to catch somebody with it. But I just don't do it. As much fun as it is Matthew says, as much fun as it is to absolutely devastate your foes with half ton of explosive, gravity, hammer and thruster assisted decimation from elevation, it completely ruins the flow of combat and has zero purpose in any form of competitive play. Spartan Charge is almost the same level, but offset by necessarily to sprint to speed. It's one of the enemy Spartan Charge is almost on the same level, but offset by the necessity to sprint to speed and its one enemy at a time impact. Still bad though. Brad says, I voted for Spartan Charge. While it's nice to transition from sprinting into a melee attack, I just feel like the ability does too little damage for what amounts to half a ton of Spartans slamming into you at high speeds. That's fair enough. Jay says, I love Halo, but I have never completed this game as I can't stand the gameplay. Oh wow.
Ooh, ouch.
Doesn't feel like a Halo game, and new features and choices above spoil it. I know game developers have to go with the times, but I believe don't go for broke, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I mostly enjoy the story and lore from all the games. This whole game's a low point for me, Halo 2 being the pinnacle. Sorry to put
I was
down
gonna say
this.
he's an old school Halo guy, and that's fine.
That's alright, Jay.
You like your Halo. You like the old Halo. That's fine, Jay.
There you go.
Cool. Krista.
Alright, same thing. So the first one is, what is the best Spartan ability? So the best one on this one is Clamber. The second is Thruster Pack. The third and fourth are both tied at 4 points with Sprint and Smart Scope. And then we have Ground Pound and Slide, Stabilizer, and Spartan Charge all have 1 vote.
Well, 1 vote. That's Discord. Like when you do a vote.
Oh, they all get 1?
Yeah,
okay.
Everybody gets 1 when you do a poll. But anyway.
Alright,
Continue.
so what is the worst Spartan ability? With a whopping 10 points, Spartan Charge is apparently the worst one. The second worst one is Ground Pound, followed by Slide, followed by Stabilizer and Clamber. And then everybody... Clamber, apparently. 1 vote for Clamber. And of course, Thruster Pack, Sprint, and Smart Scope didn't get any votes.
Anything worth mentioning?
Sam says, do I have to choose only one? The problem is, like, both of these are back-to-back, so I can't really tell which one they're talking about.
That's fine. There's not a whole lot of comments.
Physical Sky says Spartan Charge sucks. At least Ground Pound takes some skill to use and leaves you exposed for a bit. Yep. Some people love Ground Pound, some people hate it, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's a hard one to go through, but anyway. All right, so we appreciate everybody's thoughts there. Do you guys have a favorite?
I really like the Smart
Is that yours?
Scope.
Yes, I guess Smart Scope is probably the best one because it, like you said, it makes every weapon better.
It does, yeah.
I like the Thruster Pack. I like being able just to get that little boost off to the side. I feel like it helps me escape certain things. So, yeah, I'm a Thruster Pack.
I really rely on it, too. When I was playing Halo 4 and I didn't have it, it felt weird. It felt really weird. I'm not sure what the worst would be. Like, I like all of them. It's hard for me to choose. Like, the one I use the least would be Ground Pound, but I like Ground Pounding.
I find myself force myself to use Ground Pound. Otherwise, it doesn't come natural in my gameplay. So I don't hate it. It's cool. It's a cool thing that exists. But I think from like a multiplayer standpoint, it adds a weird balancing thing. So that's why probably a lot of people don't like it. But
well, no one really uses it in multiplayer. Like it leaves you way too exposed unless you're like hidden or something like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, I think we're good on the opening mission from Halo 5. That's Osiris. On the next mission, we will be playing Blue Team. Ooh. Send us your thoughts. Send us your thoughts at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at Podcast Evolved on Twitter. You can also support the show by visiting Podcast Evolved on Patreon. Until next time, evolve.
Evolve.
Evolved.